Welcome to today's Tax Talk. I am attorney Stephen Leahy. We are going to talk about the IRS, and they are getting more up to date in some of their online accounts. And so that's what we're going to talk about today: online accounts. So join us. Join us here. We'll be talking about online accounts. Thanks so much for joining us here today. The IRS has been kind of lax. I think I was talking about last week. They spend $4 billion, almost $5 billion a year in IT, but they have it's a tall order. I'll accept that they have a lot of information technology. They have more stats than any other organization that I'm aware of. They compile all these statistics. They have to go, but what they've been behind on is allowing online. Now that we've been doing online tax returns for a long time, and they needed special permission to do the online tax returns because they always required a wet, what they call a wet signature. You had to sign it, and so that didn't, didn't facilitate online or electronic filing that way. So they had to make some exceptions. Now, as a practitioner, since COVID, it's been very difficult. You have to, what happens is when, as a representative, I have to get your, what they call a power of attorney, comes in a form 2848. There's another form 8821 also that gives limited authority, but we always go with the power of attorney, form 2848, and it requires a signature. You have to sign it, and then we have to fax it to the IRS, and then that gets processed by an individual. So I've been told by people that at the IRS that it comes out in a fax machine, and they get a piece of paper and it has to be processed. And generally, in the best of times, it takes me about 10 business days, so 2 weeks to get that processed and get it in online, and so I can pull transcripts and work on my client's behalf. If I call the IRS, the first thing they're going to ask me, does CAF have your power of attorney? Now, I can oftentimes send my power of attorney fax to the person I'm talking to in order for them to talk to me. So even if it hasn't been processed yet, I can still generally talk to the IRS. But again, I can't get any information. I can't get your past transcripts. I can't, they won't fill me in. They won't send notices to me, for instance, until I'm in the CAF. So last year, the IRS, there was a law. So let's talk a little bit about it. Let me go into that because I think it's important. So let's go into that. Let's see if I can get that. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. So I wanted to talk about under the Taxpayers First Act of 2019. Now, I got to tell you, since COVID, for me to send in this power of attorney, very difficult, almost impossible. There was nobody there to process them. I've been told that there was semi trucks full of these things these powers of attorney that needed to be processed, and many of them never did get processed. And so I've been sending duplicates in to try to get it through. So I have some that are 6 months old that have not yet been processed. I can't get information from the IRS, even though I send it once, I send it twice, I keep sending it. Again, I can still call the IRS, but it won't go into the CAF unit. I can't get the transcripts, and this is really, the transcripts are really the map to solving your problem. Got to know what the problem is before you can solve it, right? So that's what the transcripts allow us to do. And so in this act, the IRS, the Congress had established standards for accepting taxpayers' e-signatures on request to authorize the IRS to disclose taxpayers' return and other information to a practitioner. Or on powers of attorney granted by taxpayer to practitioner. In response, the IRS published guidance in the Internal Revenue section 10.10.1, the manual. Now, the manual is the Bible. This is how things get done in the IRS. I probably should have pulled up the manual. We'll have to do that another time. The IRM says that the instructions for IRS forms should specifically state whether e-signatures are allowed. Now, in this last November, the IRS, they passed, they did the first step. And the new process gives IRS tax professionals and taxpayers a safe option to electronically sign and upload critical documents without in-person meeting. So because during COVID there was a lot people weren't meeting together. You were doing everything online. For me to get a wet signature, I had to mail it to them. They had to mail it back. That takes a long time. And so the IRS says, okay, we're going to agree to an e-file, e-signatures. DocuSign, for instance, is one. We use Adobe, and they have a signature page where I can send you something online, and it verifies that you signed it, and that I can send to the IRS. And I can go to the IRS website and upload it to the site myself, so I don't have to fax it. However, that process, that 2848 still had to be processed the same way a faxed one came in. So it didn't really help that much. And I still have some of these that I sent in, many months ago that still have not been processed. Many of those I did electronically. I mean, the manual way, send it in. I try to do it electronically. I still haven't gotten it. So now the IRS has come up with a new way, and they've been working on this. This is account information. So I encourage people, you should have an IRS account. And, I don't want any contact with the IRS. Well, whether you have an account or not, the IRS has all your information, right? So you should have access to that information that the IRS has, right? So now you can go online, you can start your own IRS account, and you can go here. I should probably set up a tiny URL for this. Create or view your account. You can the total amount you owe, including. So if you already have a balance with the IRS, they'll tell you all this information on your site when you go there. But here's the thing: now, if you have a site, if you go there and you have a site, what I can do is I can as a practitioner, I can put it and I can get immediate access. So if you have an IRS account, I can upload a 2848 electronically. You can verify that you've given me permission electronically, and then it goes right into the system. Doesn't have to be processed by anybody. And then I have immediate access to your transcripts and all your other information. Now, I haven't used it yet. I just got this on Thursday. I believe I got the notice that this is active, and I've been seeing a lot about it. So, but as we sit here today, I still haven't gotten anywhere because a lot of my clients, they don't have an IRS account, and setting up an IRS account is not always that simple. You don't just, it's not like I think I said this last week, right? It's not like trying to get a newsletter where you give them your email address and make some password up and then they give you access. It's a little bit more complicated, and it should be more complicated, right? Because they have all your critical information. And it should be very difficult, but it is difficult. And so it's going to take, it's not an immediate process. You have to go through an authentication process. And so this is what's going to take some time anyway, but it's still faster because it might take a day, 2 days, 5 days for you to get to authenticate yourself and get that IRS account. But that's faster than sending it in and trying to get a process through the IRS. And then you can verify that you've given me permission and I can access your transcripts immediately. And this will help us so much in trying to solve these problems and trying to cut to the chase. Because it's all about, and this is the slowest part of any of the IRS, right? I shouldn't say that because there's many parts that are very slow. But one of the slowest part was this CAF unit. And again, since COVID, they've been inundated with these forms and they haven't been able to catch up. And, I think even now, I don't think they're all in the office, and so it's been very difficult for them to process these returns. And so, because it's difficult to process the returns, those power of attorneys, again, makes it nearly impossible for us as practitioners to get access to it. And as I mentioned, yes, it's good that it's difficult. It should be difficult, but there's a fine line. It shouldn't be impossible. And it's pretty much been impossible with COVID to follow all of the rules that the IRS has set forth. So what can you do with your account? As it says here, the total amount you owe, your payment history, key information from your most recent tax return. And to get a IRS account, you're going to need your most current tax return, unless it hasn't been processed yet. Then you're going to need last year's tax return, because they're going to ask you what the adjusted gross income is. These are one of the verification processes, to give them information from your tax return, so they know you have access to that tax return, and then they can determine whether that's you or not. So have your most recent tax return handy. And again, if that hasn't been processed yet, you might need last year's tax return. Digital copies of select notices from the IRS, your economic impact payments, where are they? Authorization requests from tax professionals. That's what I'm talking about. And that's really and for me, that's the most important. Most people aren't going to go on, and you can get transcripts yourself, but they're very hard to decipher. They're not that easy. They use a lot of codes, and they don't, it's hard and every year is separate. So then you have to put them all together. Very difficult. And so when we get these returns or these transcripts, we have software that can compile it into a readable format. But even that's difficult. I still have to explain what that all is, but it puts it into a logical form and breaks it down that we can go through it and review it. And then again, we can come up with a map to solve the problem. And that's what we're after. We want to solve that problem for you. You can also make a payment online. Now, this is important too, right? Because if I'm making monthly payments, either they're going to take it out of my either they're going to take it automatically out of my bank account, or I can do it online instead, or I can mail it in. Well, mailing it in, as we see, it's very difficult because there's nobody there to process it. They don't know if you got it or not. So the best thing to do is to do it online. But even that takes some days, sometimes week, for it to show up in their system. So just because I paid online, it doesn't show up right away. And I still have been fighting with the IRS about, even with the proof of payment and all this, that they say, it doesn't show up on our system. So they won't give you credit until it shows up on the system. Approve or reject authorization requests. Now, again, this goes back to what I was just saying. That's why it's so important that we get the authorization requests. Let me go. Your balance will update no more than 24 hours. Check on your money or order payments may take 3 weeks, as I just mentioned. It takes them some time to now, the only time that they're saying it's not available is Sunday. Sunday is late Saturday into Sunday morning, because they do maintenance on the system every week. So they're telling you that's going to be down for about 12 hours every week. So this is a good step forward. If we can implement it correctly, and that's one thing what the government generally has problems doing, right, is implementing them correctly and making it easy for people to use the system. So all these systems that sound good, again, if you can't use them, what good is it? And so we're going to test it out. We're going to see how this all works. I'll keep you informed about what's happening and why this might be a good thing. Again, I think it will be a good thing. Anytime you can, I talked about this last week about, the tax returns used to be processed by individuals, took a long time. Now most tax returns are processed electronically. And and it's almost instantaneous. Same thing here. If we can take the people out, put it into the system automatically, it'll make things a lot easier. At least that's the goal. So let's see how that works. So I wanted to, the IRS is, they're trying to implement, but this wasn't something that the IRS did. This is something Congress made them do. I don't know if they would have done it. And of course, they appropriated funds for this. And that goes on top of the 13 or 14 billion dollars that the IRS uses every year in their budget. And this will help save more time, more effort, more man hours to devote to other things like auditing you, okay? Because that's what they're looking to do. And we've talked a lot about that, about the IRS. Their goal is to increase, even with the budget that they have, is to increase audits by 50% on small businesses. Okay. So again, if you're having an IRS problem, what you should do is go get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. You go to freeirsbook.com, get a copy. Again, freeirsbook.com. You can get a copy. We ask you to pay the shipping and handling. That's it. And the rest is yours, right? And we pay for the rest. We also include some reports that would be very helpful for you if you owe the IRS money. So feel free to go to freeirsbook.com and get a copy of our book. Now, if you find this information helpful in any way, we're going to ask you to like, subscribe, or share. Right, like, subscribe, and share, I should say, because the sharing is really, if you have a friend that you know that owes the IRS some money, probably have some good information here that they should know about. So share it with them, let them know. But you should subscribe. Make sure you hit the alert so you get noticed when we put things on. If it's on Facebook, like us, like the content, okay? Because that way we can reach more people, and that's what we're trying to do, to reach more people. So thanks so much for joining us here today. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Uh-oh.